Hello, and well, thank you for joining me here. For those of you who are new to the channel, my name's James Gill and I'm one of the clinical lecturers at Warwick Medical School. And essentially this is a thank you Q&A video because you guys have managed to get us to over 30,000 followers. And I'm astounded, I really am. Now I know I said that I was astounded when we got to 10,000 followers, but this shows, hopefully, that you guys are getting some benefit from what we're putting out here on the channel and finding something of value here. So thank you for giving that feedback and all the little bits of feedback people have provided whilst we've been doing these, because you guys have helped me tremendously in terms of sorting out lighting and audio feedback and things like that. So thank you. I think the thing we've managed to create together stands for itself, really. So previously, as I mentioned, we did a Q&A video and I asked whether or not people would be interested in throwing questions at me again. Apparently the answer was yes. So we've had a load of questions come through here. So let's start off with Chilachi asks a question. So why did I go into the medical profession and how has coronavirus affected your everyday schedule? I went into medicine because essentially I'm a biologist who happens to find squidgy things very interesting. And the problem with the biology that I was trained in is everything is lab-based, and in many ways it's almost all theoretical. You don't see often the results of what you're doing. And I found hormones and the body and the nervous system fabulous, but I actually couldn't do anything with that information. So I had the opportunity to go to medical school, and it's meant that I've been able to use a lot of those things that I found fascinating in my first 2 degrees now to actually hopefully help improve people's lives when I have contact with them. In terms of how's Corona changed my everyday schedule, broadly speaking, coronavirus hasn't changed my schedule, it's just elongated it. We're still trying to see as many people as we can, whether or not that's on the phone or directly face-to-face when needed. But what coronavirus has done is it's slowed down our ability to see a set number of patients, because we have to make sure we're doing the masks and really pushing the hygiene side of things and double checking that there's no risk to myself, to the other staff at the practice, and potentially other patients. So Nick's Art asks, what age was the prima donna when he moved in with you, and how has Dhaka changed my life? Also, was it my first cat? I got Dhaka at the end of the first year at medical school, so I've had him for 12, 13 years now. And I didn't realise quite how important he's been to me, because he's just been there constantly until he disappeared last week. He's here now, he's currently sleeping on his bed by the windowsill. But he's a house cat, largely because I live very close to a main road here, and I don't think that he's bright enough to be able to cross the road on his own. But he's been there as a constant companion for me, through the high days, through the bad days, through everything. And sometimes his simple routine I find so grounding. So every day I'll come in, he hears my keys, and you'll hear a thump as he jumps down off my bed upstairs, and then da-da-da-da-da-da as he runs down the stairs, and then aggressively slams himself into my shins with his shoulders, as if to say, you are home, I shall claim you once again as my own. And he's a pathetic little creature. There's something about him that I feel drawn to in a way that I haven't to our other pets that we've had. You know, I've grown up with dogs and cats and things like that, and you know, I had, you know, very much rough and tumble with those, but Dhaka is somehow different, and I really can't put my finger on exactly how. I wonder if it's because he was a rescue and has been very, very timid, and over the last 13 years, you know, I think that we've improved his life, but I can't say for certain on that. Okay, so Sarah asked, how did we discover that people were using the medical videos for ASMR? Truth be told, it was one of my friends was using videos and things to help himself get to sleep at night, and apparently got a shock when my voice came through his speakers at night, and he told us the next time we all met up, and that proceeded to 45 minutes of ribbing from my friends as we read over some of the comments that people had made. Okay, Jennifer Allardyce asked a couple of questions here. What makes the perfect cup of coffee for you? Honestly, I'm a bit of a weirdo when it comes to being British. I don't like tea, and I'm not a fan of coffee either. I love the smell of coffee. It smells wonderful, but the taste, not my sort of thing. Yes, not really a fan of hot drinks there. Jennifer's also asked, what's the greatest adventure in life so far for me? I'm terribly sorry, but I've got to say, going on the island.
After 2 weeks on the island,
Peasant Beach.
Spelled Peasant Beach.
both groups are still living at either end of the same beach.
This is not a joke. People think this is a holiday.
Phil, chill out.
With the less well-off at the north and the wealthy team half a kilometre south.
It looks a little bit like a Maharaja's palace.
Well done, Tan.
Tropical storms devastated the camps,
Flooding.
and both teams struggled to survive on a scavenger's diet.
It's a soft drink.
We are up creek without a paddle now.
You know, being marooned on a tropical island for, 30 days with just 2 knives, 2 machetes, the people that you're with and the clothes on your back, is a special experience. It really was. I learned a huge amount about myself, and I genuinely feel that it was an unparalleled experience. And I've done a few other adventures previously. I can't see it, but somewhere over there, there's just been a rockfall by the sound of it. It was in the valley. Might even be the glacier for that matter. Anyway, the point I was making was that there is Everest, and we've come up here for sunset. Right, that's probably enough of my gabbling. I'm sure you've got plenty of better things to do than look at my sunburnt, scruffy face. But I do think that that was one of the biggest that I've ever had to do. Doesn't mean I'm not looking for the next one though. I occasionally see jobs about, going and being the medic for a mine in Africa for a few weeks, or, helping out with things like that in Cambodia, and I think maybe. We'll see for the moment in time. At the minute, no one's flying anywhere. I don't want to let Jennifer Allardyce monopolise the conversation, but she has put another question which I think might potentially benefit some others, so we will go through that. What's one book that's changed your life? There's a journal called the Book of Best Practices. I'm forgetting the guy's first name, but I think it's David Fincher. And it's about a chap in his 40s who runs into a rough patch with his wife, and I think she's a linguist, and she looks at their problems and she diagnoses him as having Asperger's. and it's his journal of best practices, the things that he did to try to improve their life. And it's quite amazing to read about somebody having similar thoughts to you. You know, how he would, for example, find that he'd look at things out of the window and the telegraph poles would not quite line up straight with the window frame. But if he changed his head ever so slightly, then everything would line up correctly. And that produced a pleasing feeling in his head. I understand that completely. And that was quite an eye-opener for me, that somebody else's brain might have these strange wirings as mine. You know, the things that I have to do to ground myself. Now, it is a very, very interesting book if you think that you're on the spectrum at all. I will highlight there are things I actively disagree with in that book, but it was a very helpful book to me, and sometimes when life's been particularly difficult, I have gone back to read over it, just to, you know, reinforce a couple of the learning things that I took from it. Mr. Richboy has asked, if I didn't become a doctor, what career do you think you'd have done? One of the things that I'm most gratified to for yourselves for helping this channel grow is that we're building something here together, and I think that there's a tremendous community here. And I think if I hadn't become a doctor, I would have wanted to have done something where I actually build, where I actually create something. So, you know, it would certainly be something scientific, perhaps engineering though, perhaps, you know, something down that line where I could say this is, you know, the tangible thing that I have done today. Again, it's one of the reasons why medical education means so much to me, because I can say that I have been able to put these lectures together, or I have helped do this app. I'm actually there to be able to create things that other people can use after I've you know, finished and uploaded it. Don't get me wrong, GP is a tremendous job, and I feel exceptionally privileged for the interactions that I have with patients and the things that they tell me. But, you know, whereas when I'm interacting with a patient, yes, we may have a positive impact on that patient, but it's a very intangible relationship. Whereas, as I say, physically writing things, producing lectures, you can use those things time and again, and you can use them in different scenarios and things. It's a different mindset. Ganny452 asks an interesting question. How do I feel about put up to paper? The one thing that concerns me about it is that people may feel that it is forced or is somehow disingenuous. Believe it or not, that's something that does trouble me. I have odd ways of speaking at times, and that was one of the things that has come out for it. So I know that there are some phrases that I pronounce strangely. Bizarrely enough, a good example of that is the phrase Sarah, or Sarah. For some reason, it comes out slightly differently, and I don't know why this is. But, you know, that placing a bit of paper on something, it's simply alliteration, and, you know, if people find it entertaining, all power to them. But, you know, sincerity and being true to myself and the people who are watching this channel is very important. So I don't want people to think that that's a forced thing at all. And at the end of the day, we've tried to put a bit of paper productions to try and help out the medical students who've just graduated. So maybe something very good will come of it as well. So the coolest classicist asks, how do I feel about people using the videos for a wide variety of purposes? Absolutely, it's fantastic, it's brilliant. It kind of goes back to what I was saying about creating lectures and things that people can utilise in their own time. I am exceptionally pro self-development, self-growth, self-learning. If it's something that people are able to learn from or just get any form of utility out of, that's brilliant. It really is. I am incredibly pro self-development, and whatever somebody is able to do to grow and learn and become a better version of themselves, all power to them. Gatecrasher Forever asks, who do I prefer from Transformers, Optimus Prime or Ultra Magnus? I'm sorry, there's only one option. Obviously, that has to be Optimus Prime, who is not only one of the greatest characters ever created, but it's also voiced by, well, one of the greatest voice actors ever. And I'm not going to get involved in a discussion as to whether or not Morgan Freeman is better. Morgan Freeman may have played God, but he certainly hasn't played the leader of the Autobots yet. So he still has some distance to go to beat our friend Optimus Prime. Papa Capoptat asks, what's the best life lesson you've learned so far? I think that was something that my granddad said. Neither above, neither below, but always with people. I learn something from everybody that I come in contact with, and that doesn't matter who they are, whether or not they're the dean of the university or whether or not they're the chap in the paper shop. You treat everybody as equal because there will be their areas that they are better and more experienced and more knowledgeable than you. And by understanding that, I think it tries to keep me as humble as I can. Something which I freely admit, I do fail at times, but I do try and keep my granddad in my head for those sorts of things. So Mr. Shoeshine asks, what would you want potential junior doctors to know before they head into years of training? Snacks. Make sure you have snacks and food and good quality food in your bag at all times. If you have the opportunity to sit, do so. You don't know when you're going to be able to sit down next. Make sure that you drink plenty, because heck, there's even been studies shown that junior doctors working in ITU are technically in acute kidney injury compared to their patients because they don't drink enough. And finally, when it gets too much, when your back is against the wall, when you don't feel that you can take any more, talk to somebody. Whether or not that's your consultant, whether or not it's a friend that you've got at home, whether or not it's one of your colleagues on the wall, do not let the pressures get to you alone. Now, the pressures will get to you, there's no doubt about that. We will all get to, a reckoning point ourselves, but it's about how you deal with that. I have been through that reckoning point myself, and I do remember having a very lively discussion with one of my consultants at a time, and they were terrific. They told me exactly what I needed to hear there and then, and that helped me. What does it say? There's no such thing, there's no new things under the sun. Somebody will have gone through your experiences, and in your team most likely. Speak to them, find how they dealt with things, and learn from other people's mistakes, because we have all made them, and people will be able to tell you, this is what I did, this is what didn't go well, this is what I did do, or this is the advice that I did receive that helped me overcome that particular issue. It's vitally, vitally important that we recognise that as doctors, as junior doctors, and as anybody in the healthcare profession, we will make mistakes, and we will do things that we wish we hadn't, or we will second guess ourselves. And we need to understand that saying I have had enough is not failing. That's to say that there is only so much that each person can give at a time, and when you get to that point, you need to know about it, because you need to step back for a bit. Maybe that's, take 5 minutes for yourself off the ward. Maybe it's go for lunch early and sort of, decompress that way. Maybe it's you're overdue for some leave. whatever it is, make sure you talk to people and do not go through these things on your own. Okay, let's go for one more. Anna Ferriman asks, if you could choose only one particular part, system or organ in the human body that you'd specialise in for the rest of your career, what would it be? The heart. Oddly enough, I consider my area of interest to be sports medicine and diabetes, but the heart is... I still remember at medical school the first time I saw an open chest and a patient's heart beating there in front of me. And I know this phrase is overused, but it was truly a life-changing experience to see that. And you know, transplant surgeons understanding the ECGs, how people are able to manage heart failure to improve the quality of life for patients, how simple optimization of nutrition and medications can completely transform a patient's life when it comes to cardiac issues, I think is tremendous. And if I had the opportunity to restart, and I don't want to, I'm very happy with where I am at the minute in the medical education that I'm doing, but if I was to go it again, I'd probably want to try and focus on a cardiac side of things, just because it's such a cool organ. Right, well, I think we'll leave it there. His Lordship is still fast asleep on his seat over there. I hope you found some of this entertaining, and if I could ask you to please like the video if you think it's been worthwhile. If you think it hasn't, please put a comment down below. You know, this is about growing the channel for everybody here. And if you think there's things that you'd like us to cover in future, I know we're going to focus to doing a video on the JVP, the jugular venous pulsation, next, and then, after that previous comment, doing some cardiology focused videos. So, unfortunately, whilst we're waiting for the medical school to restart, we're unable to do any more clinical examination demonstrations, but there's still plenty in the bag yet to do, and hopefully when I get access to the buildings and, more importantly, people who are prepared to be examined, we'll be able to take things forward. But until then, hopefully you're all right with me building on these educational videos, which do need to be done, let's be fair. Okay, take care, have a good day, and once again, thank you for the 30,000 followers we've got.